Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to the third episode of Vested Interest with a special feature at Fashinnovation. Thanks again, Jordana, for having us. Vested Interest is an online pitch competition that we've started for direct-to-consumer e-commerce brands. My name is Rohan. I manage our investor partnerships at Gorgias, and we're super excited to continue this series as a way to help companies scale. For those that are unfamiliar, Gorgias is an e-commerce focused help desk with deep integrations with Shopify and Magento, and we work with a ton of amazing brands all along the D2C spectrum that potentially could be great investment opportunities for investors. The format will be as follows. For today, we will have two brands pitch to a panel of two investors. Each brand will have 7 to 8 minutes for their pitch, and they'll be sharing a deck. They're welcome to share anything with respect to the background of their business, how much capital they're looking to raise, what they do with the capital, revenue numbers, and other stats, so on and so forth. The investors on the panel will then have 7 to 8 minutes collectively to ask questions based on anything and everything that they did or did not hear during the pitch. And I'm also excited to announce that the official co-host and sponsor for this event is #paid. Their platform helps D2C brands fix influencer marketing. Brands use their network and of creators to find best fits for each campaign, source authentic and diverse content, and drive purchases by running paid social ads through creator handles. And good news is they're offering 50% off the first campaign to both brands today, which I'll announce in a second. But first, let's introduce the investors that are on the panel today. First, we have Madeline Keulen from Victress Capital, who leads consumer investments there. And we have the managing partner at Reformation Partners, David Rogg. I'll turn it over to each of the two of them quickly to do a brief 30-second intro. And Madeline, would you mind kicking things off?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me. It's wonderful to be here, and I'm really excited to hear from the brands. I'm Madeline. I'm an investor at Victress Capital. Our focus is on early stage consumer companies backed by diverse teams. And so for us, we look at everything from brands, we look at e-com, we look at everything that underlies that from a tech perspective. And our focus is at seed and Series A. So super excited to be here, excited to learn more.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. And David?
Sure. Hi, everyone, and thanks for having me on this. So I'm David, co-founder and managing partner at Reformation Partners. We are a fund based in New York, focused on the best capital efficient businesses, early stage with a particular focus on consumer products, and very excited to dive in with the two companies presenting today.
Awesome. Thanks a lot to the both of you. And on the brand side, just as we were talking about, two phenomenal brands, of course. Our first brand is Boyce Jeans, pitched by Jordan Adars. Boyce is committed to minimizing its impact on the environment. Their focus is on innovation and sustainability in the fashion industry and has truly allowed them to establish themselves as a leader in the space. The second brand is Pasco, pitched by Patrick Robertson. With a focus on addressing the underserved socially sustainable apparel market, Pasco is taking strides in the right direction. Their product is made by digitally mobilizing a USA team from their homes, allowing them to efficiently and effectively create designs that are both comfortable and fashionable. At the end, the investors and I will sync up and pick a winner based on the brand itself, potential for growth, overall likelihood to invest, and overall feel. And before we get started here, ongoing thank you to our partners who provide perks and discounts to the participating brands on Vested Interest, Kinship, Mute6, Rewind, Chronos, SwayPay, Blue Stout, OmniSend, SMS Bump, and Class Rebel. Okay, and that's it for me. We're going to get started here, and we're going to bring Jordan up from Boyce Jeans to start. Hey, Jordan, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic. So you heard the intro there. The floor is yours. You have 7 to 8 minutes. I'll leave it to you.
Thank you. I really appreciate you guys inviting us. It's a really unique situation here to be back here in Fashinnovation, which I'm very excited to be speaking in a different format this time. When I originally started Boyce Jeans, kind of started it with the inspiration to inspire others. So I'm really excited to see what Fashinnovation is doing to inspire others to create better products. It's something that is not really a trend, even though some might say that it is trending. To me, it's a movement. It's going to become the new standard, which is the reason why Boyce focuses so much on sustainability and creating products that do not have waste, that utilize products that come from waste and upcycle them to give them new lives. I kind of was lucky enough to start my career in kind of being a jack of all trades and, being everything from pattern making to production to design to wash coordination and fabric development. I started a brand called Girlfriend Denim for Revolve, which was great because it was a huge success. Launched it at Barney's, which unfortunately is still closed, but it's still a brand that's around right now and still doing great. You can find it at everywhere from Nordstrom's to Revolve.com. Then I went on to learn a little bit more about sustainability at a company called Reformation, which focuses a lot on sustainability, which was great. Here I was able to kind of define what is sustainable denim. This was about 4 years ago, so it was in consideration that no one really knew what sustainable denim was. Most people just thought, oh, organic cotton is what sustainable denim was. And when I went to Reformation, they were like, oh, well, we don't use cotton at all. And to me, I was thinking, well, jeans are actually made of entirely cotton, so what are we going to use to make these jeans? Hopes and dreams. And it's actually kind of funny because their motto was that they are, being naked is the most sustainable, clothing item technically, and that they are number 2. So I was like, well, technically we're doing number 1 here, which is being naked. But there I was able to identify kind of the way to blend fibers together, which wasn't an easy method to do because I went to a lot of companies that were making fabrics that considered themselves the most sustainable, denim mills in the world, and asked them to take recycled cotton and to take certain cellulosic materials and blend them together. And I tried with many and failed, and I found the right ones and I succeeded. And I realized that my sort of technical skill in this market was what was really going to give the advantage here for the future. And that's what Boyce came about. We launched Boyce in 2018, and it was a great success. About 1 year later, we were in stores such as Nordstrom's, Intermix. We are also in stores, small boutique collections like Planet Blue. We have our own online distribution to sell directly to consumers through our website. And just earlier this year, we also launched a small sort of pop-up collection with Bloomingdale's just before the pandemic. The pandemic definitely made us think a little bit differently about how the future is going to go. Luckily, a lot of the changes that actually happened during the pandemic were things that we're already actually working on identifying more of, which was great. We ended up shifting a lot of our focus into adding improvements on our website. We didn't realize that we had been a first for many different attributes to our company. We ended up realizing that we were the first completely 100% carbon neutral denim brand in the US. We didn't realize that when we launched our completely transparent supply chain mapping with Retrace, that we were kind of the first denim brand to fully map their supply chain like that here in the US. And not only that, we also measure all of our metrics, and we have a third-party company just clarify all of the life cycle assessments of our products. I think one of the biggest issues with sustainability is greenwashing. So we've realized that, we want to make sure that our consumers don't just know that we are doing something sustainable and that we say, believe us, we're doing it. Because the unfortunate side is that there's a lot of companies out there that all state that they are making sustainable products, but at the end of the day, they are damaging other people's lives. And that's the important thing, that we give the consumers the power. And the reason why we're so focused on sustainability is the more we teach our consumers and educate them about what makes a sustainable product sustainable, then they're able to hold that guideline, hold that bar up higher for the other companies. And so that the other companies now have to realize if they want to make better products, that they really need to step in and actually do it. If they say, there's statistics out there that state that about 60% of the organic cotton that is used in fashion is actually not even organic. There's only 250,000 tons of organic cotton grown each year. So if you put the numbers together, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And the unique thing about jeans is that, there's a lot of capability for them to be one of the most sustainable products. However, they are one of the worst in fashion, one of the dirtiest. The dyes, the fact of using cotton in general, which is a surface crop that grows in high climate areas that utilizes a lot of water and an absorbent amount of pesticides and insecticides and fertilizers that all come from fossil fuels. So one of the purposes here is that you take something that can be the worst and you flip it over and make it better than everything else, then it gives you kind of the inspiration to say, what else can we do? And this is when I started realizing the success of what we've created with Boyce can be interpreted into other garments. So we launched knits and started making t-shirt jersey fabrics, and we started making fleece fabrics with sweatshirts. And we realized that that was actually even easier to make completely zero waste. And we blended it with a fiber that we use in our jeans called Refibra, which is actually a cellulosic fiber that comes with blending wood pulp with actually waste fabric from big fashion manufacturers that are just throwing away the scraps from their cutting. And we work with this company out of Austria called Lenzing that produces this cellulosic recycled material. And we blend it with our organic cotton that comes from Izmir, Turkey, to have some of the lowest impact garments that also have the most premium quality. When you touch these garments, you feel like this should be $100 t-shirt. And then you actually compare it to this other materials that you find out there. You know, say you go on one of the, companies that we sell to, Nordstrom's or Bloomingdale's websites, and you buy a $100 or $200 product from them, a sweatshirt or whatever it is, and you feel it in comparison to ours, and you think this is just a, regular cotton, regular polyester product that's selling for $200. It feels like crap. It sheds microplastics. It has pesticides. Who knows what it's made out of? Who knows who made it? And if the factories were even audited or treated well. I mean, the cotton could have come from the western portions of China, where they're using slave labor pretty much right now in the internment camps that they've created for Muslims. And at the end of the day, you compare that to our product that's completely audited, completely transparent, half the price, or if not a third the price. All the information is accessible to the consumer so that they know, hey, at the end of the day, I feel comfortable producing this. And not only that, it's a company that supports other organizations. We plant one tree for each purchase. We even work with a company called 1% for the Planet, that the founder of Patagonia, Yvon Chouinard, he created this to help other companies connect to nonprofits to work together. And so we also support companies like Solar Sister, where we're donating money to help support them create better initiatives for people who need it. But not just to give them money, but to create solar power in rural villages in Africa where they would normally use, charcoal, wood, kerosene, things like that. So the whole concept of business should be not just profit. Even a government shouldn't be just focused on GDP. Perceived values are what's really important right now. And one of the things that the consumers are shifting towards right now is the value that they consider themselves for the future. What does this do? How does this treat people? How does this treat the planet? What is it doing for me? They don't want to just look good in a product. They want to feel good because they're supporting good. And that's what Boyce delivers. And as we are advancing our company, we're having extreme growth, and it's a difficult thing to do to keep up with. So what we're trying to do right now is we actually started realizing that a lot of investors started reaching out to us that, hey, maybe this is something that we need to learn how to adapt and how to expand. And so now we're looking at creating a small sewing line within our offices to specifically start making our own products, where we can make them within 3 weeks, put them onto our websites, find out what's selling well, and then take those blueprints of designs and send them to our other factories and produce higher quantities at lower prices, and then also offer them to our wholesale partners such as, Anthropology or Free People or Shopbop or Revolve. And this kind of creates a way to reduce our waste by not overproducing, adapt to a faster growing trend market, and not only that, reduce our cost of goods and increase our quality all at the same time. So these are sort of initiatives that we're trying to implement by kind of creating a smart designed supply chain. And I noticed you hand moving, so I figured that was the out of time notion.
Just wanted to let you know we're slightly over. So if you have like one or two,
that was
wrap it up. But
that was pretty much it.
But if not,
I'll open.
Fantastic.
I'll leave the rest of the time open for questions.
That's great. Appreciate that.
Great. Happy to start, and then I guess Madeline and I can trade off. So thanks for that, Jordan. Could you just walk me through, tell me a bit about your supply chain? So obviously very transparent, very focused on the sustainability angle, which is great. Where are you producing, and what does that working capital cycle look like for the business?
So right now we have several different countries that we work with. We produce a little bit here in Los Angeles, but unfortunately there's not much subsidies from the government to really support growth here, let alone sustainable machinery that we really need to find. So we end up going where a lot of that sort of supply chain ends up. We ended up in Turkey, where we have 3 factories that we're working with in Turkey. We have a factory in Italy, and we also work with a factory in Thailand. Our working capital pretty much comes from a blend of also, profit from sales, but also our wholesales. We get orders in advance. So we collect orders pretty much about 6 months in advance. And what we do is we take those purchase orders, and as soon as we ship them to our customers, we usually ship on terms anywhere from 30 to 60 days. We work with a factoring company, and the factoring company finances our POs and gives us the money to be able to produce them for our wholesale clients. However, we don't get the same sort of treatment when it comes to inventorying our product for our own website, which is where we're seeing the most growth is through our direct-to-consumer channels.
What is the current split right now between your direct-to-consumer and your wholesale?
At the beginning of this year, it was probably about 30% direct-to-consumer and 70% between wholesale and also distributors internationally. Right now, we're teeter-tottering around 40% direct-to-consumer and 60% wholesale and distributors internationally.
And what do you want that to look like over time in terms of what is the best case in terms of what that split looks like as you grow?
I think somewhere between the 50% direct-to-consumer to 60% direct-to-consumer, depending on whether or not we have brick and mortar stores, which I know sounds like a crazy idea, but I still think it's extremely relevant, just not in the next 6 months or a year, but going forward into 2022 based on unique experiences you can deliver to customers outside of just selling product. But nonetheless, I think somewhere right around there with a 40 to 50% wholesale model, because wholesale clients are still extremely relevant and important, especially due to brand relevancy. A lot of direct-to-consumer brands, it's very difficult to give people the perceived value of your product because these days people compare you to everything else they can find on the internet. And well, the difficult part is you can find pretty much anything on the internet for as cheap as you want it to be. And people don't understand the difference on how that was made or where that was made. So the unique experience you're able to get is through not just direct-to-consumer, if people want to find more information, but you also have the relevancy of these other wholesale distributors being able to sell your products and pretty much saying that this is a product that we believe in and we also think our consumers will be interested in. And you get to gather their customers for life as well, because whenever they can't find something there, they can still come to your website and purchase products.
On the customer side, and maybe the answer is different between wholesale and e-com, what do you see as your customer personas? So who is your target customer? Curious age demographic, where are they based? Maybe socioeconomic level. Like, who does this resonate most with, given the sustainability angle and everything else?
So I actually have a lot of decks, like a brand deck that tells a lot about that, which I'm more than willing to send that out to you privately through an email. But our consumers definitely between the ages of 24 to 34. I like to call her a big girl. She's just graduated college. She's got her own job now, and she's got big girl money. So she's going to say, all right, if I'm spending my own money now, I definitely want to start buying something a little bit more conscious because I'm not in college. I can focus on, I have a career now, so I'm career focused, which means I want to focus on building future. This goes all the way up into the 30s, where we also have women that, they've learned about what's happening with the world, and they know that their dollar is their power. This isn't just a matter of voting for government people to go talk about how they're going to do things and then just take a bunch of money from corporations. These are women who know that I got to purchase stuff that's going to help support the future of other people. And not just that, but I also want to purchase products that's not toxic to myself. A lot of clothing actually holds a lot of toxicities, carcinogens, things like that. Currently, right now in the beauty world, you have a lot of people talking about SLS free, paraben free, all these sort of things, because people are starting to realize that corporations were actually using worse materials to cut their costs. And now consumers are becoming more educated, and they want to know, hey, if this is going on my skin, I want to know that it's not going to cause a rash, hives, pimples, blemishes, anything like that. Especially more important on the women's side of the business.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. We have maybe 1 or 2 more minutes. Madeline, David, any other additional questions from you guys?
Sure.
Awesome. Okay. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm good.
I actually have a question.
Are you good?
Can I ask,
okay.
I know it's probably not like traditional, but can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah. So out of curiosity, because I obviously, I get a lot of people that email us, everyone looks at our brand and everyone's very curious, like, oh, like they want to call me, find out all the details. But I think for a lot of people out there that are listening right now that have a lot of interest in wanting to start their own brands, that they all have interest in, like if I start a brand, like I have no idea about anything about investors or anything. What are the things that attract investors to brands?
Yeah. I can start, and I'm sure Madeline will have a lot more to add. So to me, and for what we care about at Reformation, there's sort of three key things. So one is a lot of what you've talked about during this time, which is brand, right? So what is special? Like, there's obviously in the apparel space, so many brands doing like jeans, how many different jeans brands are there, but what makes your brand stand out amongst the milieu, and why is someone clicking on your Facebook ad versus the 5 other, jeans ads they're seeing? So that's a key piece. That's qualitative. That's obviously gut feel as opposed to quantitative. The two quantitative things in particular that we care about, with a particular focus on brands that don't need to raise 5, 10, 15, hundreds of millions of dollars, but grow much more sustainably. We care a lot about unit economics and working capital cycle. So two things that if you nail it, you can grow incredibly profitably. If you don't, you're going to need to consume a lot of capital to get there. And so, different industries, there's different ways to structure in accordance with that and to try to be able to grow on customers rather than external funding, or creatively leverage things like factoring, like you mentioned you guys do. So at least for us, that's how we think about it. I'm sure Madeline has other criteria she thinks about.
I think we're fairly similar. Capital efficiency is really important to us. We're early stage investors, and we stick with companies through the life cycle. And I think in the consumer space, we're always looking at what that exit might look like and what that means for us and the founders as you go through that cycle. I think in terms of what makes a brand stand out, we're looking a lot around authenticity, around community, as well as the commerce part and how those fit together. Why those really resonate to a specific demographic, to a specific consumer, and what really that brand voice looks like and how they speak to their consumers. And I think in a quantitative way, we look at, okay, well, what does that translate to in terms of AOV within a certain category? What does that translate to in terms of repeat purchases? How long does this customer stay with this brand? And how do you really see that loyalty play out on a metrics for you? And so I think that's really important. And as of late, I think we look a lot around shifting demographics, and we look a lot around accessibility and what that might look like.
Yeah, I feel like those are things on my mind as well. I'm always thinking about perceived value, considering that there's companies these days that don't even make products that can be $18 billion, companies. So it is very important. I always look at Impossible Foods and the importance of creating plant-based meats. And that's kind of what I always looked at with Boyce. Is I wanted Boyce just to be the plant-based sort of clothing manufacturers that make non-toxic, organic, carbon neutral products. And in a world where everything's becoming plastic, clothes are made of plastic, they hold carcinogens and all kinds of crazy stuff. So I really appreciate you guys giving those answers. It's very meaningful.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Jordan. Really appreciate the pitch and the Q&A, of course. We're going to bring Jordan off stage now. We're going to bring Patrick up.
Thanks, Rohan. I really appreciate you having me here.
Thanks, Jordan.
Hey.
Hey, Patrick.
How's it going? Good.
Good. We're super excited for this. You should see the share screen button at the bottom, yeah?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Let me share,
okay.
And I'll get started.
Awesome. The floor is yours. Go for it.
Okay, hold on. Share screen. They say it was easy. Okay, sorry, one sec. Let me find there. Share. Come on, technology. Really? I'm going to try again. Hold on. Share screen.
Yeah, no worries.
Not happening.
If it's not popping up, Patrick, you can
it's
just
not happening.
Okay, go ahead. You can speak to it.
So Patrick Robinson and I started a brand called Pasco about 4 years ago. And that's after being in the industry for about 30 years. So I've been the head of brands, some of the biggest brands in the world, from the Gap, Target, Giorgio Armani, Perry Ellis, Paco Rabanne, and a few others. And I would say 5 years ago, I got to this place where I was doing as the head of this company, and the last one was Gap, really wasn't aligning with my virtues and my values, right? I saw an opportunity where the world was going, and I think that's what you're hearing from a lot of brands, right? They see this opportunity for sustainable or responsible, and we moved in that direction. I decided to launch a brand to, shit. Did I lose you guys? Really?
We can still hear you. We just can't see.
Are you there?
Yep, we can hear you.
I'm not sure what happened. This is great. So I'll keep going and we'll figure out the screen. So Pasco came along because of we wanted to see if we could build a consumer product that had sustainability and responsibility and all those things, and we went out and did it. And so we had this amazing growth. We started 4 years ago, and we went from $700,000 that first year to $3.2 million in our second year to $6.9 million last year. We were on track we were going to jump. We were raising money and getting ready and lining ourselves up to double revenue to $12 million in 2020. Never tell the world what you're going to do. COVID hits us, right? And we stopped with fundraising. Of course, you guys know that because everybody went to a place of going back and protecting their portfolios. And it was probably a godsend because we started going through COVID and we saw revenue drop, and we were cash crunched and we were bringing in inventory slow. And as a Black man, this is sort of personal. I watched Floyd die, and I watched it over and over, and something hit me, something personal. I just let go because being a Black man in this country, you've dealt with racism. I've dealt with it my entire life. I mean, from being a 14-year-old kid and getting thrown out of my first girlfriend's house with her father raging at me, right, and calling me every name in the world. And so I understood. I had something just sparked up in me about being disregarded and devalued. And then I started seeing food lines in this country where we started seeing people going to food banks to feed. And then we saw the unemployment go berserk, and especially in the fashion, well, I know it's the fashion industry, but all across the country. And I decided that we were talking about responsibility and sustainability and all that, but we were talking out both sides of our mouth, if that's the right thing to say, that we were missing a social part. We were missing a part of community. The reason I gave you that whole story about the racism being Black, there's something that I just kept feeling like that we're separating ourselves, and we're separating ourselves from the products we buy and the people who make them. And so we pivoted, and we did it super fast, and we changed, and I would love to, I'll send you guys the slide, but we changed, and we changed the name to Pasco Community Made. And we started making Pasco in people's homes in the US. So we went from Asia, moved all of our a big portion of our manufacturing here, stopped manufacturing in Asia. We launched this July 11th. We launched it as a pre-order. Customers started buying it. It's already 18% of our revenue, our monthly revenue. And we're making it with all these people who have lost their jobs throughout the fashion industry. And we started seeing a new opportunity, an opportunity to build a platform that connects makers to consumers to a company. And what this means is, imagine you buy something from us now. You buy a pair of pants, Madeline or David, you guys come and you buy a pair of pants from us, and you take it home and it rips. So you would have the conversation usually with the company, with me. Instead, what we're doing is we want you to actually have the conversation with the exact person who made your pant. And we'll be able to facilitate that conversation. You'll send it back to them and they'll repair it. What we want to do is bring into this conversation all the makers with you, so you start valuing the products that are being made, that you have in your life. Because we think what's happened is, one, we've become a disposable society and we throw away everything. We think everything, especially clothes, are all disposable. But we also don't value the people that make them. We definitely don't value them overseas, and we don't value them here. And what we're going to do is, the reason we call it Pasco Community Made is this platform is going to allow you to have a conversation with the people who made it. At least be able to, you can decide how far you want to go into it, but not just having a conversation with the company, but having a conversation with these makers and actually watching your products be made through the process. We see this, and the reason we're calling it a platform, we don't just see it as clothes. We see an opportunity to take this across the country and to plug in all sorts of different products. And so you can imagine we look at what you need for home and work and for travel, and thinking about all these amazing products that you could have. It's been, I'll probably catching up to my 8 minutes, so I'll go a little quicker. It's been this amazing experience of unlocking these people and understanding who they are. We started with the tri-state area, New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey. 500 people wanted to be involved, tailors and seamstresses and pattern makers and technicians with the first one. We don't need all those. We've already had outreach from Alabama, South Carolina, Detroit, California, of other people who want to work at home and do this. We're seeing it's a whole different way of looking at having, the gig worker, right? The gig worker making a consumer product and making it from their homes. I think what's really interesting is that when you talk to the people who are making it, one of the things you start finding out about the people is the makers is that they never see generational wealth. They never understand that they're not sure that their job is going to be consistent over a period of time. What we're doing is unlocking a system to actually allow them to actually be able to make something and show them that they can make that over and over and over for a period of time. We're also paying them in a way that's really fascinating. Minimum wage in New York is 15. With what we're doing, you have the opportunity to make between $25 and $35 an hour. And another part of it is, one of the things that we quickly found out was, unlike an Uber where it's the corporation and the people who work for them, what we saw was an opportunity to actually give them equity in the company, to actually make them owners, so that you start changing that conversation so that they feel like the products they're making, they want to do the best possible work they can because they're a part of owning the company. And that's an interesting legal thing, right? So we've been studying the legal, because you can't actually make contractors employees, but you can build a co-op. And you can make that co-op part of the company and so form a different company. So we're being very creative in the way we're thinking about this, and we're moving very quickly. We launched this July 11th. We're going to ship the first products starting the end of this month into October, and this just starts rolling. By Q2 of next year, it will overtake. So we're bringing down the clothes that we made in Asia while we're bringing this up. By Q2, end of Q2, it'll be Community Made will be 65% of the products. And then by the end of the year, we'll be close to 100% of the products that we make. So that's what we're up to. Let's see if I can fix my camera.
Awesome. I was going to say you look great, but it sounded even better. So appreciate that pitch. Obviously, you guys are undertaking some really, really good initiatives, launching that in July. We've got a condensed time frame here, so I'll toss it over to David and Madeline for some quick Q&A. There you are. We can see you again. Perfect. Whichever one of you wants to give it a start.
Sure. Just to clarify, can you walk through the relationship with the makers in terms of how you find them, how their compensation is driven, and then also what that customer support aspect looks like in terms of what's on your end and what's on their end?
Yeah. So customer support. So all that customer support, shipping, all of that's on our end, and we have a very interesting way that we're doing that. I'll come back to it. The relationship on how we find them is, I've been in this industry a long time, so I have a little bit of a secret there that I know a lot of people. And so what you find is, once you connect with one tailor and one seamstress, they start connecting you to more because they all seem to know each other. What we found was during the worst of COVID, these groups of tailors and seamstresses from home got together and started making PPE. Because most of them were unemployed, and it was a way that they really felt, I think, first and foremost, to give back, but they were also being paid to do it. Since they had formed those groups, we actually found a large group of them through that. There's a great crew that's called SLB, group that was large amounts of PPE. We plugged into that and found some of the best people. But some of the crews, we have this wonderful woman that's making some things for us, and she used to work on Broadway, and she used to be one of this amazing seamstress tailor on Broadway, and she's been out of work for now 7 months. Where cutting is still the only thing that we have to do in a big because you do it all at once. It's still in a big facility, but even that. The gentleman who runs that, Tony, he used to run a place with 15 people. He's down to 3 people. So they're looking for this work, and we're able to come in and give this work. And this is something, what we're doing right now is we're coming out and building these relationships with them, because as things get better, we want to be in a place that they see more value doing it, working with us, than what they would working somewhere else. So we're looking at a whole different model than that model. And I'll be honest, all the models that we're hearing from the gig workers out there that aren't happy and don't really have a long-term relationship with the company, we're actually turning that around. We're using we're thinking about the company different. I'll shut up in a second because I can ramble. We're looking at the company different, because even the way we're building the company, because we're not building, I came from big corporations where it's this massive corporation and everything's on the inside. Everybody on the inside gets the stock options and rich and blah, blah, blah. Everybody else that makes stuff, if it's made in Bangladesh or China or blah, blah, they're all screwed. And that's not the model we want. We see this as being regenerative, right? A platform wherever we're adding value to everyone. So not only adding value to the brand, but adding value to the consumer and to the makers. I'll be quiet. I can answer some more later.
So I think the vision is really interesting, and like the obviously made in US angle. How do you scale this, and how do you maintain consistency and quality? Obviously, having sort of production all across the country with folks from your network. I imagine at low volume it makes sense, but as you hopefully scale this to replicate the volumes you're doing with overseas production, that's the scale. Yeah.
The data, I keep spinning, but the data on how many people, just the seamsters that we envision going to and making other products. But if we just stay with the clothes, there's a huge opportunity. I mean, and it's not just the New York area. It's not just the California area. We see this opportunity in South Carolina. We see this opportunity in Texas. We see this opportunity in Alabama. There's amazing craftspeople that we can sort of plug in. And that's not even getting into it. We've had already outreach and conversations with people like, would you train people? Well, that's down the road, and that's an opportunity, but we don't even have to go there, because there's so many people that we could scale this with and grow it with. And it's what we have. This is truly where you use technology to be smart about how you build everything out, how we automate it. Another cool point I just want to point out real quick. This is my own question, but I'll answer it. One of the things, everyone talks about that they have outside people say that the company's doing, the company's green, the company's fabulous. You always hear that from me, right? I'm the best thing since peanut butter. I make all these things. We're actually turning that around and actually allowing the makers to grade the company. So they're going, every time they make something for us, they actually get to grade the company. The customer gets to grade the makers in the company. So it's really a community of a dialogue. And that's changing that idea of, let's go out and get a company that I pay to tell me I'm green and beautiful and I do all the great stuff, right? This is actually people saying, oh, they actually paid me a fair wage. They actually do use good materials. This does have me have a better life. Or I hate the damn company. They don't do anything right. But that honesty that's the future, and that's how this has to work. So
okay, looks like we lost Patrick. It's that upstate New York Wi-Fi apparently. That's why David left the state. But okay, so obviously really good pitch by Patrick, and Fashinnovation has been really generous with the time from here, so I appreciate that, guys. 2 good pitches and 2 good Q&A sessions. what we're going to do is we're going to take the rest of this offline as opposed to normally picking a winner on the live webinar. And if either one of the two investors or either one of the two brands want to have a conversation after the fact, we'll be sure to make that happen. If anyone wants to get in contact with me at Gorgias regarding vested interest or regarding customer support, Rohan at gorgias.com. Shoot me an email. We'll get you lined up in either one of those two scenarios. But thanks again to David and Madeline. Really appreciate the time dedicated to judging this.